Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of The Contented Narrative. We are looking at A Dark Inheritance by H.F.Askwith. Now, this has, again, sometimes it's the taglines, the kind of the hooks that get you. Sometimes I read the blurb and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. But in this, it literally says, in 30 days I will die. And I'm like, okay, you've got me. Let's find out more. So, Felix Ash is our main protagonist, and he basically has realised that when anyone in his family when any of his siblings or he is going to hit his 18th birthday, they all die. So he's had 3 older brothers all die on their 18th birthday, and then he knows that he's coming up on his 18th birthday, and he knows he's going to die as well. And what he wants to do is he's resigned to dying. He's like, if I die, I die, great. But he also has a younger brother, and he doesn't want his younger sibling to have the same issue where his younger sibling dies at 18. Because also he doesn't think his mum can handle it. So essentially he goes off on this little adventure to try and find out why. Like what the wherewithals are onto why they're actually, dying at 18. How this came about, and how you can break it. And it takes him all over the place. It takes him to America. It takes him to Yorkshire. At one point they're in York and I'm like, I've been there. I recognise that. And he teams up with other people and he realises that there's this big sort of shadowy organisation that makes deals with people and they use things. So his dad came into a huge amount of money and was saved. But the cost of that is that his children will never inherit the money that he's come up with, and it's a really interesting sort of story, and I did enjoy it, and I did enjoy the characters. It wasn't a 5 out of 5 book for me because I do feel like sometimes it was just a bit sort of it fell a little bit flat on some chapters, and sometimes when they met someone and then you're like, oh, but so and he was betrayed, and you're like, right, okay, that's fair. And do you know what I mean? You know where the story's going. You know how it ends. It's not a big surprise in the respects of the twists and turns that are happening. But you really do grow for Felix, and sort of when you get to the end of the book and the ending that happens and how it happens, you're really happy about that. You're kind of happy that is the outcome that he's got. I'm not going to say if he survives or not. I'm not going to say if he breaks the curse or not, but you're just happy with kind of where he's ended up, with his friends as well, because there are times as well when you're like, they've betrayed each other, great, okay, but then you do also have to remember that they are sort of 17 years old. So they are essentially children, and sometimes you forget that as well when you're reading, for example, when I was reading The Hunger Games and stuff, you forget how young she is. And when you're reading other sort of books where the heroine or the hero is essentially a teenager, and you're going, why are you making such a stupid mistake? And then you're like, they're 15 years old, of course they're going to make a stupid mistake. It was very similar with this, and I think because of the fact that he was 17 and his friends were sort of around the same age, and when they were going on the adventure and when they were doing all of this, at times I was kind of rolling my eyes being like, seriously? But then, as I said, you've got to remember they're 18 years old. Well, not quite 18, otherwise they'd be dead. But the hook, in 30 days I will die, and then on the back where it said, once I had 4 brothers, 3 of them are dead, I am next. I was like, yes. And it didn't disappoint. As I said, it was 4 out of 5, just because occasionally I was kind of a bit exasperated with the way that the plot was going. But it reached a great conclusion at the end, and it leaves you satisfied. And it leaves you kind of sat there going, okay. It may not be what we wanted, but at least it's what the characters deserve, if that makes sense. But, if you read it and you sit there and go, give them a break, they weren't that idiotic or that stupid, that's completely fair. I am absolutely happy with whatever you guys leave below in the comments. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything. Let me know if you were put in that situation where you were going on a break, on an adventure to try and break a curse. Would you act the same way that they did? Do you know what I mean? It's self-preservation. And if there are any books or anything that you guys want me to read, I mean, I do have a big to read pile. And I have taken on a bit of a giant book at the moment, but I will give it my go, and I will add it to my list, obviously. But thank you so much for your continued support. I remember to always keep it contento.